Hey there! Today I've got some polymer clay, my copy of Create This Book 2, and a thrifted teapot. I'm going to use all these items and combine them together to make this guy. So let's get straight into it. Quickly though, I'd like to apologise for my gross voice. At the time of doing this voiceover, I'm sick. Again. I really wanted to use cos clay for this project, but I still haven't purchased more. Even though I've been telling myself to do so for nearly a year now, I'll just have to settle on using what I currently have, which is Sculpt a Living Doll. Not ideal, but it will do. I've also grabbed a few images of octopuses, just to get an idea of how their tentacles look in various poses and the size of their tentacles compared to their bodies. To begin the sculpture, I use a ball of aluminium foil and some armature wire. I mark the length I want the head and tentacles to be straight onto my silicone mat with a whiteboard marker. Doing this makes it easy to check its size as I sculpt. Then I just start measuring, cutting and twisting the armature onto the alfoil ball, creating 8 wire legs. It's been quite a while since I've done a polymer sculpture, so I'm a little rusty and I make some silly mistakes along the way. Also, I've never sculpted an octopus in my life and I refuse to look up any sort of tutorial, so I have to nut out what to do myself. I thought I would need all of the 8 tentacles reinforced with armature wire since I was using Sculpey, but this changes a lot later due to how I position the octopus. I want him to look like he's sitting inside the teapot and half his body is peeking out. I was also going to have him holding a little teacup, but when I tested that, it just didn't look quite right. I think the teacup was too big. After I had layered on some clay, using Sculpey Bacon Bond to secure it to the armature, I tested it in the teapot again and realised once I added more clay, it was going to end up a little too big to fit. So I had to strip it down and start all over again. I made a completely new armature, ensuring the head was much smaller this time, and layered on the clay. Once I had the head to a decent size and shape, I popped on the boggle looking eyes. Just 2 balls of clay pushed onto the head. Then I used little sausages of clay to wrap around the balls and smooth it all together. Lots of smoothing. I swear, 70% of sculpting is smoothing things out. I also attach on some more pieces of clay to flesh out the head of Calamari. Yes, he has a name now. My daughter named him Calamari. Once the eyes are looking decent, I mark on the eyeballs using the cap of a marker to push into the clay. This will help me later to make sure I get perfectly round eyes for him. Once I have him looking nice and smooth, I do a bake and save. That's where I just do a shorter bake than the pack says, which means I can continue working on Calamari without wrecking what I've already done. I start playing around with how he's going to look in the teapot, and I realise I don't need all 8 wires. Some tentacles will not be seen as they will be inside the teapot, and other tentacles will be completely attached to the outside, so they don't need the support of the armature to make them stronger. In the end, I only use 2 of the wires. 2 tentacles I place hanging down the front of the teapot. Currently it looks like he has a really long mustache. Another tentacle I wrap around the handle of the teapot. 1 tentacle I stick straight up in the air and it will be holding the teapot lid on his head, like a little hat, and that one definitely needs the wire for support. I sculpt it in such a way that I can remove the lid. It just makes it easier for the painting process later. As I make each tentacle, I keep adding more pieces of clay just to flesh him out and make the joints look better. I'm still using the octopus references here a little, but I also take creative liberties. I do want an octopus that really looks like an octopus, but I also want him to be cute, not creepy. I dream of cute, aim for realistic, and usually land somewhere in between the two. The last tentacle to sculpt is up in the air. I did consider using this one to hold the teacup, but as I said, it just didn't look right when I tried it. The next stage is to make dozens of little clay balls. These will become the suckers. Apparently, an octopus has hundreds of these, but I'm not making that many. This took long enough as it was. I simply attach the balls using Bacon Bond, then make a hole in the middle using a small ball tool. As I did more of these, I got better at it, so I did go back and rip off the first few I did and redo them, as though they were looking a little dodgy. could have poured more time into this process by smoothing the attachment point of each sucker, but hey, time is never my friend. Plus, it turns out looking just fine. After the final bake, I'm super pleased there are no cracks or damage at all, so I can get straight to work on his paint job. To make the process cleaner and easier, I take the time to tape up the area where the octopus touches the teapot. I'm only using washi tape to do this, so it's not going to completely keep the paint off the pot, but it does lessen the amount of cleanup required at the end. I have to give the whole thing a coat of gesso, but my only gesso is really thick, so it is harder to get a nice smooth finish. So I watered it down quite a lot before adding 2 coats. I wasn't sure if watering it down would stop the gesso from working as well, and while it was more transparent, it still seemed to work as a good base for the acrylic paint to adhere to. I want calamari to be purple like my original drawing, and I used some new Golden Flow acrylics I recently purchased. After my joy in using good quality acrylics to paint with for the first time a few videos ago, I invested in another set of good quality paints for sculptures, ones that would be more liquidy so I would get a nice smooth finish on a 3D surface. And oh me, oh my, these Golden Flow acrylics are amazing. I wasn't completely happy with the colour I'd mixed up, it was just too blue. Then I remembered I had some Jacquard brand metallic purple I got in a Nerdy Crafter sculpting kit, so I mixed that in with some of the golden white. And I'm in love with the colour and shine this octopus has. However, using the normal white paint had dulled down the metallic look, but I had an idea on how to bring some of it back. I used the Jacquard metallic mixed with water as a wash over the whole thing. You just paint on the watered down mix, then rub off the excess. But even as you rub off the excess paint, a lot of the shine is left behind. For the suckers, I mixed some magenta in with a metallic purple and put down a base coat. A little tedious having to paint each individual sucker, but it was easy enough to do. Then I add some metallic silver to the same mix of paint to lighten it. And I do a rough second coat, just to lighten the suckers a bit, but still leaving the darker colour for the deep cracks and crevices. On reflection though, I wish I had lightened those suckers even more. To make this paint job a little less boring, I go over the purple areas with a dry brushing of the metallic pink, and I love the result. It looks almost like a colour shift effect. During the process, I switch out my normal paintbrush for a nice thick makeup brush, as it gives a much nicer finish. The final part to paint for calamari is his eyes. For the look of calamari's eyes, I decided to go more cutesy than realistic, and I added a little blue to the edges and then some white highlights. All that's left to do is take off the tape, do a little cleaning up, plus put some gloss varnish on the eyes and suckers. Here is calamari, all finished. I love him. He's super cute, and I love the contrast between him and the teapot. I didn't varnish the whole octopus as I didn't want to lose that metallic finish. I know some varnishes would have retained the sparkle, but it would have changed how it looked a bit, and I really love the finish as it is. Plus, I'm not going to be handling him, so hopefully he'll be fine with no varnish. Anyway, that's all I have time for. I hope you enjoyed this project as much as I did. I'm so happy to be sculpting again, and I hope to see you next time.